Hello, it's Miss Beatty here, and today we are learning to round decimal numbers. Now, this video is a follow-on from yesterday's lesson. Yesterday, we looked at rounding to the nearest whole number, and the reason I've got these pictures up on the screen is to show you some real-life examples and where you would find decimals. You would find decimals on the back of a food packet or carton in the nutritional values section, so this gives you some information about the energy in foods, protein, carbohydrates, fat, and lots of other different information. And also on the front of food packages in the form of like a traffic light system, so red, amber, or green. Red typically being unhealthy, green being more healthy. And we can see here 20.6 grams of fat are in this I think pasta bake, so it's quite high in fat, but we can see that it's only got 1.7 grams of sugar, so it's quite low in sugar. So that's how you can link decimals in with real life examples. And for example, 26.3 grams, if I wanted to round that to the nearest whole number, like we were doing yesterday, I need to look at my tenths column and think, is it 4 or less, or is it 5 or more? If it's 5 or more, this number would need to be rounded up to 27. But because it is 4 or less, because we've got 3 here, 0.3 or 3/10, the nearest whole number is 26 grams. So 26.3 grams is closer to 26 grams. If that number was 5 or more, the number would be closer to 27 grams. So we looked at that yesterday. So moving on, today we are looking at rounding to 1, 2, or 3 decimal places. So that still links in with rounding decimal numbers. We will be given a few different examples. We will be asked to round to 1 decimal place, which is here, 2 decimal places, which is here, or 3 decimal places, which is here. And you might be thinking, I really don't understand that just now. Well, follow on through this video and hopefully you will be able to complete the activity sheets with more understanding. So example 1, rounding a number to 1 decimal place. Now we've got a Mars bar here that is £1.25. Now we want to round £1.25 to 1 decimal place. So this number here, our number 2 that is in our tens column, this number is either going to stay the same or is going to round up by 1. So we need to look at the number next to it in the hundreds column, which is 5. Now the rule is 5 or more raise the score. So this number would go up to 3 if this number is 5 or more, or 4 or less, let it rest. If this number here was 4 or less, this number stays the same. £1.25 rounded to 1 decimal place becomes £1.30, £1.30, because 5 or more, this number needs to go up by 1, so it becomes 1.3, and we must put our 0 in as our placeholder. £1.25 rounded to 1 decimal place is £1.30. Let's look at this example here. Our Twix is £1.43, and we want to round that to 1 decimal place. So I need to look at my 4. This is either going to stay the same or is going to be rounded up by 1, depending on this number here. It is 4 or less, so I know that this number must stay the same, because 4 or less, let it rest. So the answer, £1.43 to the nearest decimal place, is £1.40. And £1.43 is closer to £1.40. Okay, so that's rounding a number to 1 decimal place. What happens if you get a question that's asking you to round a number to 2 decimal places? Well, you just follow the same rule, but you just go a tiny bit further. 4.789. So if it's to 2 decimal places, we want to work out if this number is either going to stay the same or if it's going to be rounded up by 1. So we need to look at the number next to it, its neighbour. If this number is 5 or more, this number needs to change by 1. If this number is 4 or less, this number stays the same. So 4.789 rounded to 2 decimal places becomes 4.79, because our 9 is more than 5, so this needs to jump up to 9. 4.79. Let's look at this example, 82.675. We look at our 5 and ask ourselves, is it 5 or more? So we need to raise this number, or is it 4 or less? Do we keep it the same? Right, well, it's 5 or more. Okay, so this number 7 needs to change to an 8. Okay, so 82.675 becomes 82.68. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you get an example like this one here, 7.899, you need to just think a little bit about this. We still need to work out if this number needs to be rounded up by 1 or if it stays the same. So we look at its neighbour. Now, 9 is obviously more than 5, so this number needs to change by 1. But we cannot write 10. We would go back to 1, so we would write 90 instead, 7.90, because 89 add 1 is 90. If you're asked to round a number to 3 decimal places, well, this is where it's a wee bit trickier, but we just follow the exact same steps. I've got these pictures up here because this is often used with businesses, stocks and shares, interest rates and things like that. You can see they are all in decimals or percentages, okay? And these change all the time and often they have to be rounded, so it's a good skill to learn rounding. So 4.7869. We want to round this to 3 decimal places. So we need to look at our third number, which is 6 in this sum here. 6. And we then need to look at the neighbour, which is 9. And we need to ask ourselves, is it 5 or more, or is it 4 or less? Well, it's 5 or more, so this number 6 needs to change by 1. So it needs to change to 7. So 4.7869 rounded to 3 decimal places becomes 4.787, because obviously our 9 is 5 or more, so this needs to change to 7. So we've got 3 decimal places. What about this one here? 7.6453. Okay, well, I'm looking at this number. Does it stay the same or does it need to change? So I look at the neighbour. It's not 5 or more, it's 4 or less, so it needs to stay the same. So this number stays at 5. So 7.6453 to 3 decimal places is 7.645. Okay, so that's how you round. As long as you remember 5 or more, raise the score, 4 or less, let it rest. If you remember that little rhyme, it definitely helps. That's what helped me learn this skill. And have a go at some of the activity sheets. You can challenge yourself to trying more than one, or if you manage mild quite easily, then you could challenge yourself by moving up a level, okay? I would quite like to see people be able to round to 1 or 2 decimal places, and being able to round to 3 decimal places is it's an extra skill to learn, okay? So just try your best. If you need any help, just ask for it on Teams, okay? And I hope this video helps. Remember, you can rewind it or pause it at any point, just so you get a little bit more of an understanding or a feel for these decimal numbers and how to round them. Okay, bye-bye.